Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to the Rattlecast. We're the biggest freewheeling live stream poetry podcast on the planet, in your ears and on your laptops. The guest for episode number 304 is Sneha Madhavan-Reese. She'll be here in a few minutes, but before we get in, I should say that Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995 and are unaffiliated with any other organization. We just do all this because we love poetry. I know you do too, so please do click on the like button and share. Make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell for notifications. Whatever you can do to help spread poetry around the internet. After the main guest, I should say too, it's time to reveal our prompt poet of the month. A familiar face, but let's see who it is this month with a wonderful poem. That's in the second hour, then all your prompt poems too, as always. But first, we're going to start with our Poets Respond poet. And we had a wonderful poem that just captured so much of what so many people are thinking, which is one of the things we try to do with Poets Respond. And Christy Prahl is here. Hey, Christy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you. Thanks for sharing this poem with us. And it is one of those things. I mean, there's so much going on politically. There's a sort of sense of exhaustion with all of it that a lot of people have been writing about too. And this is a response to one of the many emails that we all get. So why don't you tell us what inspired this poem and how it came to be?
So I think it was probably last weekend. I opened up my email and yet again, there was a plea for some money for a candidate in a state that's having a very important midterm election. And of course, I'm sympathetic to all of these the great challenges ahead of us, in front of us around the midterms. And so you want to do everything, right? You want to sort of like write a check to everyone, and you want to make sure you're out on the front lines of advocacy work and marches and demonstrations and doing volunteer work. But there's also jobs to do and children to raise and dogs to walk, and just it just gets to be overwhelming after a while, and just the existential crisis of it all, to realize how much that we thought we could take for granted actually is quite fragile. And so this poem was really just written in response to kind of just one more ask for one more thing. And I sort of had reached a tipping point where I just thought, I don't know how to respond anymore. And so I thought, well, I'm going to respond by doing what I do best when I am in crisis. I'm going to write a poem. And that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. And this is an email reply to John Ossoff from Georgia. What do you think it was that drew you to respond, given all the options, like all the political possibilities of people who could be writing a poem after? Why John Ossoff?
So I think probably, and I mean, again, I adore his politics. I really hope he wins. I'm rooting for him. But at the same time, he probably is the person who dominates my feed the most. And I did a little search in my email for just Ossoff, and it just reams and reams and reams of emails came up. And I started looking back at those emails, and I realized that in not one of those emails was anything clear about his platform. It was just a kind of like, we need more than ever to have representation in Congress. And so please, please, please support me, send me money. And I thought, this is something that I have lamented about my own near and dear Democratic Party for a long time, is that we run away from ourselves. We don't talk about what it is we really represent, and we're fearful about having positions sometimes. We don't want to alienate. And so I guess I was just struck by just how often I hear from Senator Ossoff without really knowing what he's about. I don't live in Georgia. And so, but again, he's one of many, and they all hold my heart. But I wish that there would be something a little more forthcoming about positions.
Yeah, well, definitely. Why don't you go ahead and read this poem?
Sure. Okay. So this is called A Retired Public School Teacher Fires Off an Email to John Ossoff. Dear Mr. Ossoff, I would ask politely, with no intended disrespect, that you stop showing up in the promotions tab of my Gmail account. I admire your politics and hirsute hint of a beard that says, I am a grown man. I am a future legend. I am what we need for the fight. And I enjoy your sensibility as well as your suits, even the ones so navy blue they fade into the blunted history of men. I suspect I would enjoy your documentaries, especially the treatment of a stage play in Sierra Leone. John Ossoff, you remind me we have legions of work to do. John Ossoff, I am weary of housework. decades of dishes after marching for a traffic light at a busy intersection with dozens of other families spilling from our manufactured homes. I have written letters to the editor of Time. I have stood in the snow on the Missouri State House steps, carrying signs celebrating the right to choose alongside a fallen nun, a pediatrician in his 90s, and an Army veteran. Every Wednesday for a year. I kissed a woman out of curiosity, then protest, then desire, and then more desire. John Ossoff, you are a blue dot in Georgia, a regular Georgia peach, but also, if I may, an email manspreader. Above all, a bird at my window humming. You need to do more heavy lifting. You are not wrong, John Ossoff, but I am so tired of men in tweed telling me how to be better. John Ossoff, I will send you a check for $25. John Ossoff, I am painting a sign. John Ossoff, I've registered for a shift as a call center volunteer. Please come to my apartment, John Ossoff, and help me fold the fitted sheets.
Yeah, that was a wonderful poem. I love how it picks up into more and more poetic language as it goes deeper and deeper into your feelings about it. That's really great use of that. Thanks so much, Christy, for being here and sharing that as our daily poem today. It's great to meet you and share this poem with everybody.
Thank y'all so much. Thanks for having me.
Yep,
Take care.
Take care. Yep. Yeah, that was Christy Prahl once again with a retired public school teacher fires off an email to John Ossoff. And that was your Poets Respond poem for the day. If you have a poem about current events, anything, doesn't have to be political, anything that's happening in the news, and the news is anything that there are news stories about, feel free to write a poem and then submit it by Friday night. We publish a poem about current events every Sunday, sometimes midweek too, if we have some extra good ones. So please do help keep poetry contemporary and relevant to our lives. All you got to do is go to rattle.com/page/respond or find it up in the content and submit poems there by midnight. All right, now we're going to take a quick break and go to our main guest, Sneha Madhavan-Reese. So sit tight and we'll be right back with a whole bunch more poetry. And we're back. Thanks for your patience. Last week's guest for episode number 304 is Sneha Madhavan-Reese. Sneha has degrees in mechanical engineering from MIT and the University of Michigan. She's the author of the poetry collections Elementary Particles and Observing the Moon. Her poems have appeared in publications around the world, including the Best Canadian Poetry in English, 2016. Sneha's second collection, Elementary Particles, is inspired by her South Asian heritage and passion for science and has themes of identity and belonging, language, and loss. Elementary Particles was longlisted for the Raymond Souster Award and was a finalist for the Ottawa Book Award. She's appeared in Rattle 3 or 4 times, maybe. And here she is, Sneha Madhavan-Reese. Hey, Sneha, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. I've always really enjoyed your poems, and having that like science angle is something that I always really enjoy. And so it's really cool. Anytime I see a book that's like Elementary Particles as the title, I'm always curious because I love science, as people watching this will know. So it's really fun to have you and talk more about that intersection of science and poetry too. Do you want to start out with a poem from the book?
Yeah, sounds great. So I'll start with Rosa Parks. The day her body was laid out for viewing, I was getting nothing useful done. So I left work early and drove downtown. The line of people wound all around the Museum of African American History. I wouldn't get to see her. The wait would be hours. I brought no coins to feed a meter, and there was nowhere else to park. A man approached to offer me all the change in his pockets. I'll always have fond memories of Detroit.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And that's other than the title poem for the book. That's the first poem after the second poem in the book, and it's one of the few poems that are really interesting because they address people. They're titled after specific people. There's a poets. Robert Pinsky is one of them. Seamus Haney, but it's your personal relationship with them. A professor too. It's really interesting. Why did you choose to what compels you to write those poems for specific people? Because those were interesting ones.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, there's a lot of poems in the book that are written sort of for people or about people with the name of the person as the title. And they all came from different places. So, it wasn't like I set out to write a bunch of poems about people. It was, I was writing for many years and then I looked back at what I had and I noticed that I had all these different poems. The Rosa Parks one, I didn't know her personally, obviously, but it came out of this experience that I had in 2005 after she passed away, and I went to view her body if I could, where it was lying in repose. Um, and that incident really struck me. That whole event really stayed with me for a long time. And that poem actually took me a very long time to write, probably about 10 years before I had the final form of it, because I had initially written a very long, detailed account of that day. And then I kept on, every time I went back to it, I kept on taking things out until I just ended up with what I felt was the emotional core of the poem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that a typical process for you to take, write and then condense as time goes on?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily the condensing, but the process of like seeking out the details, I think, finding what the right details are. I write a lot of narrative poems, poems that tell a story in a very concise way. And for me, finding the story is finding the details. So choosing what to put in, choosing what to leave out, and really sometimes knowing what to leave out is just as important as what you leave in. So I would say my process is really about figuring out what those details are for
Mm-hmm.
each poem.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. I'm really interested in your background in science. I mean, it's not. I don't think we've ever had any guests that majored in science at MIT before. And we've had some guests. It's not too uncommon, and myself is one of them, who started out as a science major and then sort of fell in love with poetry by accident in the English department, and then ended up not finishing and going off and not doing what they expected. But you going through as a mechanical engineer and having both that and then the master's degree too.
Yeah.
What was it like? Why did you go in that direction, and where did poetry come into play? Were you always interested in both? And how did that work?
Yeah, for me, it was not the sort of thing where I fell in love with one after the other. I have always loved math and science, and I have always loved literature and writing. And I think a lot of that came from my upbringing, from my parents. We spoke Malayalam at home, which is our native language, and it's a very beautiful, melodious language. And I just fell in love at a very early age with the sounds of words, with the rhythm of words, with the rhythm of language. And, my dad really loved poetry. He would recite Malayalam poetry as well as English poetry. So I grew up around that. And my parents also, were very focused on education. And I was very strong in math and science, and I love those subjects too. And my dad actually was a chemist by profession. So that was always a part of our lives as well. And he always sort of made sure I knew what I was doing in my math classes and my science classes. And so for me, it was, always a matter of I loved both things. And I was always writing poems and, not always as much as I am now, but even through undergrad and when I was working as an engineer, I would always be writing poems.
Mm-hmm. And how is that? How have the two things informed each other? Do you think you write more like a scientist than most poets, and did your poetry inform your work as an engineer?
I don't know that poetry informed my work as an engineer at all. But I do think that on a fundamental level, poetry and science are both about observation. And so I see them as quite aligned in that way. I mean, for both things, we're always trying to observe very carefully and pay attention to what's around us and what's happening around us. So I think it's hard for me to even say because in my mind, they're so similar. They're really just two different streams to get to the same endpoint for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, they're the science as far as research goes, and as far as understanding the exploration aspect of science, which is that drive to know how things work, which is really what's at the heart of it. Then once you know how, you can apply it and do all the amazing things. But to understand how the forces interact in the universe and what is behind it all, at the structure of it, that exploration is so close, to the exploration of understanding ourselves on like a psychological and emotional and interpersonal level, which is what poetry is. So it's sort of like, it seems they have so much in common, directly, not even, like they're different topics sometimes, but they're always reaching and exploring and searching. Do you feel that way?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You said it so well. I mean, science is so awe-inspiring, and poetry is perfect for celebrating that awe and to explore ourselves. And, really, everything in the world is science, right? Everything in our bodies is science. Everything in our emotions is, chemicals, right? So really, you know, they're so similar in so many ways. A lot of people, there's a lot of talk about the dichotomy between science and poetry. Um, and I've always felt that they're really quite well aligned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they too, right brain versus left brain thing. We had a guest, an interview, Ian McGilchrist, who his book is on the bifurcated brain, and that right left is definitely something that's real and applies, but it's not like math is the left and art is the right, which is that 80s conception. It's that we need both. One is this holistic view of the world that understands more than we can articulate, and the other is the sort of modeled, structured world that we've created, that has precision but not nuance and depth. And so combining the two is what it takes to explore the world through art and through science. I always think about those, so many things came to scientists in dreams, so mane discoveries. And that stuff of dreams is so the discovery process is the same as poetry, like the structure of benzene, the double helix, the Watson and Crick. There's so many things like that come to people. And even as an engineer, I can't remember who, I was listening to a podcast with somebody as the guest who was an engineer. And they were saying how, they'll have a problem they're trying to solve. And then often, almost every time, while they solve it is they go to sleep and they wake up and they just know,
Yeah.
And it's like that subconscious mind just plays through the actual problem. And then somehow the answer pops out. And that's the thing that I think has, is in common with both poetry and that kind of science.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the subconscious mind works in such mysterious ways. I mean, you talked about all those scientific realizations that people had in dreams, or I find going for walks is how I figure out what's happening in a poem, or I'll just lines will pop into my head or images, and it's just when you're not actively thinking about it is when these things kind of appear sometimes.
Yeah. Well, let's go into the next poem. And you and Christy were talking about this before. The hand of Michigan. So you've spent
Yes.
time as a native Michigander, as you say, and this is a mapping poem. Let's. You want to read that?
Yes. So a little bit of background. My dad grew up in a small village in South India where the only industry for a long time was making rope by hand from coconut husk fiber. And then, of course, I grew up in Michigan where we use the palm of our hand as a map. Mapping. I was raised near the jutting out knuckle on the thumb of my right hand. A native Michigander, I was never without a map of the state, its lower peninsula shaped like an open palm. My lifeline traced the path of I-69. We took school field trips to Lansing in my Palm Center and vacationed at the tip of my pinky in the sands of the Sleeping Bear Dunes. We went on longer trips to India to visit my parents' relatives. In rural Kerala, no one uses maps. Our driver navigated unmarked roads by calling out to locals from his window. They told him by landmark where to take a turn. Finally, my father recognized the walled streets of his village, and from the road he showed me the house where he was born, though it wasn't in our family anymore. We couldn't drop in for tea. In a clearing, women took nimble backward steps as they spun coir rope from the fibers of coconut husks. If he had never left this place, one of those women would be me. Watching them work, I turned my palm fingers down to map my father's hometown. Here it is, in the first segment of my index finger, under the thatched roofs of the Malabar coast, at the edge of the Arabian Sea.
Yeah, beautiful poem that was mapping by Sneha Madhavan-Reese from her book Elementary Particles. Um, and so I still am really interested in the way, as a mechanical engineer, you think, and how that applies to poetry. Because poetry, it's a problem-solving application. You know, it's like you have to get somewhere where there's something, meaningful, and there's some kind of problem that opens every poem. There's some kind of undiscovered, not completely understood thought that needs to be worked out. And you have to get to the end of it and work that out. Like it's a puzzle in a way. I mean, we say poems aren't puzzles because we don't want them to be symbolically, like you have to know that the tree signifies this and this and this. That's not how it works. But it does work in this symbolic language where we are working out problems through a different way of thinking. And so I wonder if you feel as you're writing poems that you're working toward a solution. And does that, thinking, because as a mechanical engineer, I imagine the attention to detail and the precision of, how everything fits together is so crucial, And I could see, just having your brain be trained that way, that you see poems that way too. Do you think that's the case?
Well, in mechanical engineering or any type of engineering, you're working towards something known typically. Like you're trying to design a particular thing and you know what that thing is and you know what it has to do. But in poetry, the ending is not always clear, or you're not moving towards, a particular desired destination. You're moving somewhere and you'll know when you get there, but you don't know when you start out where it is you're trying to go. And that's a big difference. Um, and it means that you have to be open. You have to pay attention to where the poem is taking you. You have to be open to different ways of doing things. Um, I do think I have a very sort of structural way that my mind works. I work through possibilities in order. It's very linear, I would say. I have a very linear thought process, which is sometimes beneficial and sometimes a hindrance in writing a poem. But a lot of my poems are very structured because of that, I think. But the ending is never known when you start a poem. Mm-hmm. And there's some intuition that goes into, figuring out where you're going and figuring out or deciding, knowing when you've gotten there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, definitely. Let's hear the next poem. And this is one, I think this was the first poem of yours we published in Rattle, I think, 2000 Island.
Yes. This was in the Tribute to Immigrants issue. And this poem was super fun to write. It's one of those childhood memories that was just in my head for many, many years. And one of the ways I know that I have a poem I need to write is if there's a memory that just won't let go. And this is one of those. 2000 Island. The only time I tasted you was in a fast food restaurant on an elementary school field trip. I heard myself saying your name only because the girl in front of me had asked for you. Her name was Amy. Amy was confident and popular, and she knew about things like salad dressing. I had never eaten a salad in my life. Our house always smelled of Indian curries. I didn't know the names of different dressings, even that there were different dressings, or even that there were such things as dressings. I was maybe 8. It was maybe grade 3. I don't remember where we were going, but I remember Amy's voice. I listened carefully so I'd know just what to order. When you arrived, orange and tangy, you tasted horrid, but I was happy. Perhaps I could find my way in this world after all.
Yeah, that was 2000 Island, and such a wonderful memory. It's memorable for anybody reading the poem too. And so you mentioned that poem, the memory of it kept coming back to you and back to you. Did you know, that a poem was going to be like when did you decide to write the poem for that memory? Is it just that you
Well,
recognize that you kept having that thought, and then here's the poem?
well, that one didn't come so easily because it took me a while to figure out how it should be structured. But, typically how I know that I'm gonna write a poem is when something keeps just jostling around in my mind, and then I know that there's a reason. I have to ask myself, why is this important to me? Why is this, making me pay attention to it? So I knew that I wanted to write a poem about it, but I didn't know how to write that poem for a long time. The structure for that poem is inspired by Kenneth Koch's book, New Addresses. I was reading that book, and in it, every poem is written as a direct address to something, and like to the French language or to piano lessons. And it's whimsical, but also like deeply philosophical at the same time. And so as I was reading that book, I thought maybe I can write to the salad dressing, and maybe that's how I'm going to get into that poem. Because sometimes you want to write a poem, but you don't know how, or you don't know what the angle is going to be.
Hmm. How often does it happen where you choose the wrong angle? Does it happen if you started a poem and it was a different way of approaching this, and then do you ever realize that it's the wrong one and go back and try a different way? Because it seems like that's one of the things that we do. I think we tend to get locked in the way we wrote the poem so often. And going
Yeah.
back, and maybe that's why we have whole books of poems about similar themes over and over again, because we never quite get to it right the way that our subconscious mind wants us to. But do you ever find that you're writing a poem and you're like, oh, this is the wrong entry, this is the wrong angle, I should take this completely different tact?
Yes, I definitely have had that feeling, but I think I usually just abandon the poem at that point.
Hmm.
Um, I, because like you say, we do get really attached to these ways that we've gotten in. And if you can't quite see what the other way is, but you know that this way isn't working, I think I typically just abandon poems like that.
Hmm.
Unless I have some sort of great insight, but I can't think of any examples where I started a poem one way and then found the better way later.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, let's read the next poem up. That's 4.
Okay, yes. So this poem four, this starts with an epigraph from Pablo Neruda's The Book of Questions. This poem actually grew from a prompt from the poet Lorna Crozier when I was part of a workshop group at the Banff Center in Alberta. And the prompt was to respond to one of Neruda's questions. So this poem is my answer. And the epigraph is four the same four for everybody? My mother draws her four with a right angle. My father's is pointed on top. My daughter's four half the time is backward. Her sister signs, tucking a thumb into her raised palm. I just adore four, Big Bird sings, the number for me on an old record. Old meaning from a time when every kid knew how to drop a needle into a spinning vinyl groove. Four forces govern all things in the universe. Carbon's four valence electrons form the basis for all life. Our four limbs and four-chambered hearts, a four-leafed clover's lucky leaves. My father shows me how to write the number four in Malayalam. Nale, a round house with a curve of smoke escaping. He says no one uses these characters anymore.
Yeah, so that's one a poem with a very strong twist and turn at the very end with that last line. For it to be about that, about how no one uses those characters anymore. Do you remember? Is that one of those poems where you didn't know where you were going at all, and then just bam, the last line came to you?
Yeah, I definitely had no idea where that was going to go when I started it. I just started, I started kind of listing for, stuff with the number four. And yeah, and then that whole last stanza is that, about my father showing me the letters. And yeah, I mean, I guess it just arrived. That was one of those things that I didn't have to work very hard to find that ending. It just came and it fit, and the poem just kind of tied itself together right there.
hmm you mentioned that this came from a prompt and from a workshop, and that's the thing I was wondering about too. How not. I think you haven't gone through the typical MFA programs, right? So,
Right.
you've unless you have an extra degree not listed, but but so you've explored poetry very seriously in other ways, which is always really interesting to me. We had Jennifer Jean as a guest. We've had a few times, and we talked in the poetry space too. She was in her adjunct poets issue, but she talking about how the MFA is kind of a dying industry. It's there's this sort of sense a lot of people have that if you don't have an MFA, you're not serious as a poet or something, because it was this really, it's like a multi-level marketing scheme where the bottom rung pays for the professors at the top and everybody's trying to get to the top so they can be a professor too. And if money flows up and you end up just paying if you're at the bottom, and that's a big problem. But then the truth that Jennifer was talking about, because she dropped out of working as an adjunct, and she was teaching at the time, which is why we interviewed her for that issue at, I think, 4 separate universities, driving from her place in Salem, Massachusetts, 4 different directions, depending on the day, to go teach somewhere and make ends meet. But her belief is that private workshops and in retreats and that kind of thing, like you mentioned, this poem coming out of, is like the future of poetry. And how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you've learned as much as you would? Do you feel happy with that? And what has your experience been like trying to enter poetry without taking that academic pyramid route?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a period of time in which I would have liked to do an MFA just before I started really, writing a lot. I would have thought, I did think that that was what I might want to do. But honestly, I started writing a lot, like more seriously, when we moved to Ottawa, which was 16 years ago now. And Ottawa has such a fantastic writing community. We've got, terrific independent bookstores. There's always events. We've got an International Writers Festival. We've got a poetry festival. And shortly after I moved here, I went to this series of workshops at the public library that were all taught by local poets. And, I just learned so much going to those. And then there were other free workshops offered by a reading series in town. And I ended up learning so much from going to these workshops, meeting other writers, reading a lot, going to events. And I eventually realized like I didn't think that I needed, the formal MFA anymore. And I
Mm-hmm.
still do go to workshops and events when I can. And I have a great writers group now, and there's 10 of us. We meet weekly. Not everyone attends every week, but there's a meeting every week, and we share poems by other people that we love. We share prompts for each other, and we share our own poems and give each other feedback. And all of those things I think are really, that's been my MFA. So
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten a tremendous amount just from this wonderful city that I live in.
Yeah, well, that sounds great, and that I really loved back right after college. It was the same for me. I didn't know I wanted to do anything with poetry, but I liked writing poems, and I had this group that met at the Barnes and Noble every Tuesday night, and it just keeps you on task and has you have an audience to share, what you're writing with, and there's some accountability, and then there's all the different things you learn by encountering other people's voices too, and it's really just a wonderful thing. And actually that's what we try to do with the prompt lines at the end of the show on every episode, is to have that kind of community in the virtual space. Do you have any advice, or are there any like pitfalls or anything you've learned in the process of trying to pursue poetry that way outside of the sort of more standard route?
Well, I think one personal sort of pitfall that has affected me is just getting really hung up on other people's opinions, right? So, and I guess that maybe would happen anywhere, but I feel like I already didn't have a lot of self-esteem in the poetry world because I was coming kind of from the outside. So when I would get negative feedback, or people would say, like, this isn't poetic enough, and I hate the word poetic now just because of that. It really took a lot for me to recover from that. And so that my advice would be just keep doing what you're doing, to any writers who are trying to, get published or just get their work seen, and are feeling like they're coming from the outside and there's no way in. Your voice is still important and your work is still worthy, and maybe you have more things to learn, of course, which I'm sure that I did when I had gotten that feedback, but it was really difficult for me to get over that.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great advice, and it's important. I think maybe if you're a workshop professor to tell the students that, like, don't listen to anybody, even me. I think if you hear that from a professor, then they're a good one. What do you think is there one lesson that stands out as far as approaching writing goes, that was the most valuable lesson you learned, and where did you learn that?
Um, I don't know about most valuable, but something that I remind myself of quite often is that I don't have to be writing all the time, or I don't have to write every day. I
Hmm.
know a lot of people talk about having that schedule really benefits them, sitting down at the same time, making sure you're at your desk, whether or not you write anything good doesn't matter. For me, I can't do that. Like, first of all, I don't have the time because I have three school-age children. But it's also like I don't always have that mental capacity or that emotional capacity. And that doesn't mean that I'm less of a writer.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that I'm, you know, not producing enough because I'm not producing every day. I can work at my own pace, and that's okay. And I remind myself of that all the time.
Hmm. How is it that you find the time? Because that's the thing that we have trouble with too. We have four kids here right now, and finding time to do that, anything other than make meals and do dishes, is like difficult. Because I know some poets. They tend to go on retreats often, and that's the entirety. We've talked to some poets where they don't write outside of going somewhere, even if it's like getting a hotel room for a weekend by themselves, just so they can write. And then others find time. I mean, like Lucille Clifton, of course, really famous, started writing short poems because she could squeeze them in between little things, And so where do you fall in that? How do you find the time?
You know what? It's a seasonal thing. Every season, I kind of have to sit down with the family schedule and figure out where am I going to fit my own work into this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because this summer, my kids are home with me during the day all summer. So I was, the whole month of July went by and I realized I haven't done any writing. I need to come up with something here. So, right now it's Tuesday and Thursday evenings are my writing time. But then, as soon as school starts, it'll be a different thing and I'll just have to carve out whatever it is, and sometimes it's 5 days a week, sometimes it's 1 or 2 days a week. I know there was a period of time when it was just every Saturday morning I physically left the house to go work at the library because that's the time that I had available in my schedule. I just, it's flexibility, right? You just have to, be flexible. Every season it changes because the kids are in different classes or whatever after school or on the weekends. And you just have to carve it out for yourself
Hmm.
whenever you can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's hear the next poem. And the next one is one of those extremely science oriented poems on the first detection of gravitational waves. Do you want to read that?
Yes. On the first direct detection of gravitational waves. In high school physics, gravity caused objects to fall. It was the science of ordinary things, books and pencils and simple mathematics. An apple hit Isaac on the head. I built a machine out of plywood, bolts, and string. Then Einstein curved space-time and the Earth began falling along a geodesic. Mercury's perihelion, no longer anomalous, precessed as equations predicted. Our sun deflected starlight twice as far as before. If two black holes collide but no one hears them, do gravitational waves really exist? For 100 years, they were locked in nonlinear field equations. Scientists wrote proposals and studied prototypes, focused lasers, and measured noise. They built an observatory with no telescope, but with vacuum tubes encased in concrete. Weiss walked the tunnel's lengths and cleaned out wasp infestations. Before multicellular life evolved on Earth, two stellar mass black holes circled each other and coalesced. More than 1 billion years later, mirrors polished to atomic precision shifted less than 1,000th the diameter of a proton. Light beams traveled nearly 700 miles before they met and interfered, and the resulting waveform, converted to pressure in air, was audible to humans. It sounded like a chirp. Gravity still makes objects fall, but now we know ripples in space-time squeeze and stretch us all.
Yeah, and so that was a very science-based poem on the first direct detection of gravitational waves. Um, do you find it challenging to get your interest in science into poetry? There's this sort of language barrier. First of all, I mean, it's really wonderful and fun to see a lot of these words used here. All that stuff about the diameter of a proton and things like that. But there is like a jargony nature to science. And do you think there's sort of one job of a poet who has an understanding of science is to translate that into poetry, and make it understandable for people?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I love writing about science, I mean, first of all, it's so fascinating. And I just, that poem in particular, when I read that news story about that detection, it was something I knew very little about beforehand. And so I started reading all these articles on the internet and learning all this stuff. And one of the things I love about science is that, I mean, you use the word jargon, but I just think there's such an incredible vocabulary that all of a sudden you have access to. And as a writer, I mean, I just want to use all of these incredible words all the time. So, and yeah, I think it is important to use the words in a way that people do understand the meaning of them. But I don't want to, sort of dilute the essence of what this research is about, by not using the correct words. So, I want to get all the science right, and I want to use all these beautiful terms that exist. And I don't find it difficult to use usually. I mean, there is such a thing as using too many big words, right? And then it's just hard to read. But that's just part of knowing what to put in and knowing what to take out and reading it as you go and finding the flow of it. And science just has such an incredible vocabulary. I love using all of those words.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that poem was quite a literal one. I read about that research and I just basically wrote the story of it. But I also love using science metaphorically because a lot of scientific language lends itself perfectly to metaphor already, words like gravity or friction, have there's scientific meanings, but they also have metaphorical meanings and emotional connotations. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's such a great possibility for metaphor when you use science as well.
Yeah, Drya Montito in the comments put it this way: he says, "There's a language barrier for science poetry, but science is like an infinite metaphor Walmart," which I love. That's great. Yeah, it's so true. There's so many places to go, and having access, and then bringing that. Metaphor means carry over, of course, and the root, and so carrying those connections into sort of language that we can understand and appreciate and get into our heart, is what poetry is all about. So it's really cool to hear. Mm-hmm. There was a really cool question too from Mark Grinier, follow up on something you said. He asks, I always wonder what makes something poetic or not poetic. Is it just its presence in a poem? So what do you think about that? You said that you don't like the adjective poetic. So what, is it because you don't think there's that distinction? What is it? What do you think about that? What's poetic versus not poetic?
I don't know. I mean, I have gotten the critique that my poems are not poetic, and I don't even, honestly, I don't really know what that means. It's poetic. Poems, to me, what my poems are, what I try to do with poems is to convey information or tell a story that has some emotional resonance. And I I'm not going to be the person to tell someone that their poem is or is not poetic or poetic enough. But I think, you know, trying to get that emotional resonance into the story that you're trying to tell in a very concise way is what makes a poem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And two, something you said about the emotional resonance made me think about, the coming looming terror, maybe, or beauty or whatever that is AI. The large language models, and how basically, as writers for all the years, we've developed our own kind of large language model through all the reading we've done over time, and then you integrate those rhythms and the vocabulary and the dexterity through language. And that's really just a large language module in your own brain. And we've developed that. And now that's just sitting there, and anybody can crank that out. And I mean, my kids upstairs are using ChatGPT constantly, not with their schoolwork, don't worry, but with other stuff. And that's just the way that's going. And so what does that leave artists to do but be the ones that notice emotional resonance, Notice where the meaning hasn't been articulated yet. And so that it feels to me like that's where art still lives. And I think the last thing, and hopefully maybe never AI will be able to replicate, is finding those things that resonate first with us. And then if they resonate with us for some unknown, difficult to understand reason that we're trying and struggling to articulate, then that helps and benefits other people too. So that is like the thing that art still is really necessary for, and probably will be forever. But I'm just wondering how you feel, given your background, have a bit more understanding of things like that. How do you feel about AI and its effect on literature, and what do you see coming?
I mean, I don't really worry that AI is going to replace human creativity, because there is that intangible thing that we can express or communicate through art that I don't think AI can replicate, at least nothing that I've seen so far. I don't know what the future holds, but I don't think human creativity is something that AI can do well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do. The more I worry, because another thing that we do is we have sort of layers of our consciousness, and we have the like that poem Maps. Like there's one layer that's just a map. It's some little module you can kind of feel in your brain that like layers things on top of each other, and you have like a mental map. And that's like one. But then there's all these like physical sensation models. There's the emotional reaction modules, and there's these interpersonal things, these like networks that we have, and there's our understanding of our surroundings and what things feel like and the maps of meaning and objects around us. There's all these like different layers. And right now the large language models only have the language and then like the data of like every encyclopedia and thing everybody said, but they don't have that. But eventually if they start modeling and layering models on top of models, maybe they can cross, pollinate between different ways of thinking. It's kind of like in the sciences. What's that book? The Stephen Hawking's last book that was like how the unified theory is sort of here. It's just that we haven't integrated it yet. Like there's different ways of looking at different scales for everything. And, it's that the parable of the blind men touching the elephant where physics, Newtonian physics thinks it's this and has this like perspective on it, but then quantum mechanics has this different perspective, and we all have this different perspective. And then it's the unification of that's so difficult. And so I don't know, it's just a really interesting topic to me, especially as we get more and more poems that I think were written by AI, to be honest, submitted to us. And it becomes more and more difficult to figure out how to deal with it, Well, anyway,
honestly, I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, I honestly haven't thought about AI too much. It doesn't worry me at this point. So I just haven't thought about it too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, I'm hoping that there's like a dead end that they can't get past. And then, cause otherwise I think it's going to be pretty sad for everybody, but not just poets, for humanity itself. But anyway, let's do another poem. And I should say at this point, if anybody has any questions for Sneha, leave them in the chat windows like Mark Grenier did. Helps if you put question like that all at the beginning so I can see it in the crowd. Also, if you haven't yet clicked the like button, please do click like. There's always like twice as many people watching live as have clicked like yet. And the more the like to viewer ratio is higher, the more people they show it to randomly later. So we get more views later, which is great. So click the like button if you haven't yet. All right. So Sneha, let's hear the next poem.
So this poem is called Samsara, which is a Sanskrit word that refers to the cyclic nature of life, particularly the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. We planted your placenta under a peach tree. Your sisters went under the tomatoes in our new garden. We didn't want to leave it in the care of strangers, so the peach sapling we put on a friend's farm. Your sisters went under the tomatoes in our new garden. That first year, the tomatoes were prolific. The peach sapling we put on a friend's farm because we were leaving our old house that same month. That first year, the tomatoes were prolific. We had more than we could eat. Even the squirrels got fat. Because we were leaving our old house that same month, we knew we'd never taste the peach tree's fruit. We had more than we could eat. Even the squirrels got fat. After that, we had everything we could want, though we knew we'd never taste the peach tree's fruit. We did not plan to return to the land of your birth. After that, we had everything we could want, though we didn't want to leave it in the care of strangers. We did not plan to return to the land of your birth, so we planted your placenta under a peach tree.
Yeah, what a powerful, touching pantoum. Samsara by Sneha Madhavan-Reese. Do you ever, a poem that personal and that, meaningful, do you ever pull back from those kind of impulses to write? Do you ever keep yourself guarded, or do you try to let your guard down as much as possible?
I never pull back from the impulse to write. I may sometimes not publish a poem, but I will always do the writing. And sometimes I will also, like, if there are other people mentioned in the poem, I will check with that person that they're okay with me having it published or sending it out. But I will always put it all out there. And, I think for me, a lot of the times, even when something feels really personal when I'm writing it, after the writing is done, then I do feel separate from it in a way, and it doesn't it doesn't affect me so strongly to see it out in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we have two poems left. Let's read Dung Beetles next.
Dung Beetles. This is another poem that I had so much fun writing. And it came after I read an article about a scientific study that showed certain species of dung beetles navigate by the light of the Milky Way. Talk about awe-inspiring, right?
Yeah.
Dung beetles. It takes tenacity to survive on others' shit. To fly into a fresh pile, still steaming, to break off a piece and roll it into a ball for easy transport. To roll it backwards with head to the ground, blind to rocks or holes in the road. It takes geometry to roll it in a straight line, always a straight line. A famous poet once told me the best poems are nonlinear, but a straight line is the quickest escape from would-be thieves. Thieves abound in the chaos of the mound, so the male beetle rolls his ball away, as straight and as far as he can. If a rock bars his path, he moves around it, then continues to roll. If he falls from a height, he climbs atop his ball and dances, then continues to roll. At night, never mind the lack of polarized skylight. Under the new moon, dung beetles roll their balls in straight lines. Never mind their tiny dorsal eyes, too poor to resolve particular stars. The steady brushstroke of the Milky Way is visible even to a beetle rolling a ball of dung. Never mind poetry's nonlinear logic. It takes faith to navigate by a galaxy.
Yeah, and that was dung beetles, and a really wonderful use of the science there, and a great example of just how much, that Walmart that Jared was talking about. There's just so much of fascinating things to share, to turn into poetry with science. For the longest time, the only magazine I subscribed to was New Scientist, because I just love that's the only thing I like to read. All the other literary magazines just come in automatically for me. But do you find science articles? Do you read science very often? Is that part of your? It's obviously an interest. Is that something you seek out regularly?
You know what? I read everything. I read anything that comes my way. I find I don't even have to seek it out. It'll just appear like, well, I know the algorithms have something to do with what I see, but also people will send me things or, I just find things. I don't even know that I try really. But I read a lot of things and, I don't write poems about everything that interests me, but sometimes there's that spark of just the awe or the wonder. And then I know, like with the dung beetles, just imagining an insect on the ground navigating by this light so far away. It has no idea what it is, but is still using it to live, right? And that sort of thing really just fills me with so much wonder. And it's the perfect thing to write a poem about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there is just so much to be amazed by in the universe. I mean, even in the urban decay type photography where it's like rusted out, there's just so much things that are fascinating, and you just have to look. No matter where you look, there's something amazing to see and witness. And in a way, not only as poets but as human beings, we're here to do that, I think. Do you keep a notebook or any kind of organized way for the things you observe and see or things you read that you want to end up writing a poem about, or do you kind of just write it while it's hot?
A little bit of both. I do tend to make some notes right away when there's something that comes in and it's just in my brain and it's fresh. I might write a few lines or start something, but I end up with more things than I can finish at a time. So then I do have kind of a list of the things I'd like to go back to and work on that I have to kind of work through. For me, it's a problem of time, of course, because I have so many more ideas than I have time to actually work on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a little bit of writing in the heat of the moment and then going back and wrangling things out later.
Yeah. This book we've been reading from, Elementary Particles, is your second book. And a lot of people I've heard, there's sort of a sophomore slump is what you'd call it in sports. The second year I think, especially other sports too, but especially baseball, because the pitchers learn how to pitch to you. You end up, it's more difficult getting the second year through than the first a lot of times. And the same with poetry. The second book can be tough because it's very easy, I think, to have an autobiographical book that sort of pushes through your own, the things that you're struggling through and trying to make sense of. And then you have that out there. But then the second book is always really tough. How did you figure out how to put this book together, what the theme was going to be? And did you find that difficult? Was the second one harder than the first?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting question for this book in particular because I didn't set out to write this book. I think with my first book, I had an idea of what I was going to do, and it was, mostly autobiographical. But for the second, I had this other idea of what I wanted to write, and it had more history in it. And I was writing and writing and writing for many years, but I never quite got to where I thought I wanted to go with it. And then at some point, I think it had already been 6 or 7 years after my first book was out, I realized I had hundreds of poems. So I just printed them all out, laid them on the floor, put them together in different ways to see what else I had, because I realized that original idea I had wasn't actually ever going to happen. And that's how this book came to be. So it came together quite quickly because all the poems were already written. And it was just a matter of rearranging them at that point.
Yeah, I think one of the problems for poetry is that, that willful will is too much will getting in the way. You have an idea, you wrote a book, then you want to sort of force it. But then the way you write a first book is you just write poems, and then they you put them together once you have enough, and it sort of takes care of itself, which is maybe why it's easier to figure out what you want to do with it. What was the process like getting published? Because not having those sort of academic MFA angles, the networks that there is. Did you do the contest? Did you submit to a lot of those, or just straight calls for publishing? How did you get these two books published?
Well, I think in Canada, maybe it's a little bit different than in the States because both of my books are with Canadian publishers. So we don't have as many contests for manuscripts as I think there are in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So for both of them, I just submitted directly to publishers. Most publishers will have, a month or two where they accept manuscripts every year. And so I think most people in Canada just submit directly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that seems like a much better way to do it. So do you have a third book in the works? Do you have any sort of themes that are emerging, or any ways that you're writing differently towards something? Book number 3.
Yeah, I've got sort of two manuscripts that I'm kind of working on simultaneously. The one that is closer, it's got some themes of anxiety and isolation moving towards creativity and community. Those are kind of the themes that are emerging. And I would say that's pretty close to being finished. And then I have this other manuscript that's a little further away in terms of when we'll see it, that is linked more by form than by content. So half the poems in that book are going to be glossas, which use a 4-line epigraph from another poet to write an original poem in 4 stanzas, and the last line of each stanza is one of the lines from the epigraph. And then half of the poems in that book are also epigraph inspired, but they're written in couplets, loosely inspired by the ghazal form. So that's another project that I've got happening too.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. Well, let's close up with one last poem. The last one was Frost Flowers.
Yes, this is the last poem in the book. Frost flowers. Rootless, they require no soil. Their seeds are imperfections on the surface of the sea. They bloom when temperatures plummet and disappear sometimes within hours. If I could speak a native Arctic tongue, I would have told you this in the space of a single breath. They suck salt from the ocean. I could hold one in my mouth. By the thousands, they release aerosols that alter polar atmospheres. Their crystalline hollows, abundant with bacteria, are home to more life than the sea ice beneath them. If I could convey in words the splendor of such small things, I would not be afraid of living such a short time.
And another beautifully described poem with a great turn. There was Frost Flowers. Sneha, thanks so much for being a guest today. It's really fun exploring your book and talking to you. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Tim.
Yeah, thanks. Once again, that was Sneha Madhavan-Reese. You can find the book Elementary Particles along with her first book, Observing the Moon, at Sneha's website, Madhavan, that's MADHAVAN hyphen Reese, REESE.com/Sneha, SNEHA. So find that in the show notes too, and pick up that book, Elementary Particles. And now we're going to take a quick break and go to our prompt lines and, of course, announce our prompt poet of the month. So the prompt for this week was to write a sonnet in which someone sings. So that's a pretty simple assignment this week. Everyone knows what a sonnet is, but we love those beautiful sounds of the sonnet, and the length too is great. And then someone has to sing. That's all it had to do. So if you have a poem that fits that prompt, and only that prompt for this week. If you have poems from last week's prompt or the week before, maybe, you can submit them still for the Prompt Poet of the Month, but only share poems written for this prompt this week. Now, if you'd like to do that, all you have to do is email your poem first to Prompt Lines. That's Prompt Lines, all one word, at rattle.com. Email it to me there so I can show it on the screen as you read, and everybody can read along. And then follow the Zoom link, which you're about to deploy on Facebook and YouTube. But keep in mind, it's a one-page max, which shouldn't be a problem with sonnets, of course. But it's also a 3-minute sort of max, so we want to get you in and out. We don't want to chat for too long because we want to get to everybody. And it gets to the point where people are sort of falling asleep and leaving their Zoom open, and then we just have snoring in the background. No, just kidding, that doesn't happen. But sometimes, maybe. But anyway, we want to get to everybody quick, so please do keep that in mind and share your poems. Looking forward to it. We'll be right back with a whole bunch more poetry. we're back. Thanks so much for your patience. We've got our prompt poems editor, our associate editor, and my wife, Katie Dozier, here with us today. Hey,
That's
Katie.
also just how he introduces me casually. Like sometimes it's like a cashier, and he'll be like, "I'd like you to meet."
It is. Well, we have a prompt poet of the month here, too, I believe. Well, I haven't seen him yet. Let me check.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, let's... Oh, oops. Well, there we got. Okay.
Yes, he is
And
here.
I messed up. I guess I put his poem in our document because I can't really like for the Poet Respond poems, I can I can show them because it was today, but it's not
Right.
actually online yet. Last time I put it I snuck it in like a month before, but if anybody would have scrolled back, they would have seen it, and I don't know. So I was put it in the document, and now I don't have it in the document. I deleted it, I guess.
That's okay. We have it on
So I am
Submittable.
pulling it up from Submittable right now as we
Okay.
talk. But they're prompt poem of the month, so
I will talk some
You talk while I find it.
about this particular poem. So first of all, I enjoyed reading the poems last month. In particular, it was one of those months where there were multiple people who wrote a bunch of good poems and then found multiple in the top tier mix. So good job if you were one of those poets. And a lot of them are here tonight, no surprise. But this poem in particular, it was one that I kept thinking about after it was shared on the prompt lines, and that's always a really good sign, I think. So,
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so should we go ahead and say
Yeah, so the prompt poet of the month is none other than...
Jeff Stumpo? Hello,
Yay.
Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
So, Jeff, since you started writing how long have you been writing prompt poems now? Like 3 or 4 months, it feels like, maybe a little bit. Okay, great. So you've written a lot of good ones over this time, and so it's exciting to see this. And so I'm really curious how you got the idea to go ahead and write this poem, because I think it's what I love about it is to me this is like how poets are supposed to see the world, and so that's why I love it so much.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, Jeff. I didn't unmute you. I'm sorry.
Aw, Jeff was saying
Oh, have I
Nobel
been muted this
Prize
whole
winning
time?
things.
They
no,
were.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I was very smart. I was much smarter than I am in real life.
Yeah, so Jeff's been writing prompt poems for about 4 months,
Yeah.
you said.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, so this came from the prompt to use something from Mike Tooney's Structure and Surprise book or website.
Mhm.
And I decided that because of the time constraints, I wanted to go with list with a twist. Because if you're trying to do something in a short period of time, doing a list is a decent way to get at it, because you would add and add and add, and then just start trimming away the parts that aren't going to work. And then once you've got that, you go, okay, I need an epiphany at the end.
Mhm.
So the structure sort of presents itself easily within the constraints of the prompt. I told you I was smarter when I was muted.
No, I say prompt 8,000 times a day now. So welcome to the
It
club.
just doesn't mean anything. The real life thing that it came from is that we were going through a bit of a drought here in New England. And, there's always that phrase that people use that it's threatening to storm. And my wife and I were talking about how we really needed water for our garden. We're like Dick. We're gardeners.
Right.
And, so that prompted me to go, okay, what can I say about rain that is positive, but do it in a slightly more unusual way than just, boy, it's nice we got rain, which is, that's the Midwesterner in me coming out.
Well, I think that you've given people many creative options to choose from. And I hope that all of these become cliche, because I'm determined to make Cathedraling the Storm happen. Like I've said it to Tim, we have to make this happen somehow. All of us together, we can do this, right?
All we have to do is keep, every time it rains, you post somewhere or on the little message group in the neighborhood.
My neighborhood
it's
message.
Cathedral
Well,
in the
it's
Storm. Yeah.
There we go.
There we
It'll
go.
spread
Uh-huh.
to the country.
It will.
Right.
Soda used to be the thing most people did not say. They used, the Coke and the pop.
Oh, yeah.
And then it spread because it was the better one. So cathedraling
Yeah.
can spread too.
I always
I'd
thought
say.
pop was the
Oh,
best
yeah.
one.
Oh, I
but-
just thought pop was the worst.
No, the best, but I couldn't. It wasn't natural to me to say it, even though in Kentucky, I think a lot of places in Kentucky was pop. Anyway, you haven't shared this poem again with us, and we would love to hear it again right now.
It's all good. I love regionalisms just so much. I could talk about those forever.
Me too.
So,
Me too.
yeah. Okay. And once again, I'm going to do this in the Southern accent just because I wrote this in a Southern accent. And my wife will tell you it's probably the only accent I don't completely butcher. Um, Storm chaser. Someone at the party says it's threatening to storm, and I say it's offering to storm. I say it's volunteering to storm. I say it's giving away its daughter's hand in marriage to storm. I say it's second chancing to storm. I say it's cathedral into storm, Grand Canyon into storm. I say it's inhaling to storm and exhaling to storm and holding the zephyr's breath to storm. I say it's myth making to storm. I say it's math solving to storm. I say things until my mouth runs dry, and isn't that how we signal the sky? After all, isn't that how we invite the water in?
Yeah, that is great, Jeff. Yeah. There's so much play and fun with that poem too.
Yeah, there is. And I was curious, given your comments that you made about the list with a twist and choosing that structure from Structure and Surprise, how many things did you cut? Did you end up having some that you were like, well, that doesn't sound believable to Storm? Or like, how did you go about editing it?
I think it was about twice as long to begin with.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of unusual for me. I tend to write I write a lot in my head. And so a lot of what ends up on the page is in fact what I want to be, although I'll mess with exact words and things. But I ended up writing like twice as much material as I actually ended up using for that.
Oh, nice. And the big question, of course, is, did this poem bring on the storm that you needed for your garden?
No.
Oh.
No, it did not.
No.
Well, maybe reading it today.
So we put the sprinklers on the blueberry bushes and everything else.
Hey, well, maybe the sprinklers count a man-made storm. Yeah, but I really enjoyed reading this, hearing it, your creativity in it, and the willingness to take words in an unconventional direction, which you always do in your poetry. And I thought this poem particularly well. So thanks so much for writing it.
Well, thank you once again for believing in it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And that's going to be the poem of the day on Tuesday. So everybody got a preview of it right now, but we'll be sharing it then as the poem of the day.
Destined to be a very rainy Tuesday.
I think so. All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. And I think we might see you again later with this week's prompt, possibly.
Not to monopolize, I did not send in the poem that I wrote for this week. I did write one for the prompt, but I realized that if you read it, and especially if I give you the backstory to it, it's going to make it obvious in the Rattle Poetry Prize what my entries are.
Okay.
And so for ethical reasons, I don't want to make it obvious who I am in that contest. So I'm not gonna read what I wrote for this week.
Now you deserve the rain even more.
You definitely do. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. That's really cool.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
Yeah, it was Jeff Stumpo, the reigning now prompt poet of the month.
Reigning poet? Oh,
yeah,
God, it's bad. That's good. Okay.
All right. I was waiting to be able to use that.
I know. I'm proud of you.
Okay. So this week's prompt, though, as we mentioned, was to write a sonnet in which someone sings. And what did you come up with, Katie?
Well, this is a little bit of a joke because sonnet means little song, I think. So, haha. Okay. Hope you enjoyed that banger. Okay, what I came up with. Have you read it yet? I'm always curious.
No, I haven't.
I always like knowing
it in
if you've seen it or not.
3 seconds to go before going live.
Nice job.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
So it's in case you're just listening and longing for that awkward haiku pause at the end of a haibon, it is coming for you. Okay. But I think it sounds as a sonnet. It is 14 lines and has a volta. So to me, this is an American haibon sonnet.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Sorry.
Yeah. A high bonnet.
I need to a high bonnet. Yeah. I should have worn a bonnet. That would have been effective. Okay. Birthday present. My stepson handed it to me hot off his 3D printer. The birdie's beak pointed up towards the sun, his eyes, pinky-sized holes, the top of his tail, a crescent moon gap. I thought the wormholes were misprints, since he'd shown me how filament can swirl its own track. Every story is piped out on top of the old, line by line, not poured into a lifeless mold. Beneath the rainbow streamers, beside the half-gone cake, he filled the bird with water, then flew it back to me. First I blew and sent the water gushing out both eyes, but when I tilted the bird to the right, it trilled, alive. All of us, under one roof. endless bird song.
Aw, well, I love that. That's great.
Thanks.
I knew you were writing about that because when I walked in the office, Kay was like, "Don't look at the poem," but then the bird flute, what's it called, bird whistle, was on your desk, and I was like, "Well, that wasn't."
Which also leaks, which we're learning about.
Well, that just makes it all the more fun.
Like, I don't know. I hope it's clear from
here.
the poem, but this is like
Okay.
what it looks like. Are you showing?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know. So this is it, and I filled it with water so I can try, which means that. But then we all tried it, and Tim couldn't get it.
I could not. Then,
but some of us could, and some of us couldn't. So, but now I'm like afraid I'm not going to be able to get it.
Okay.
Oh no, but it's leaking all over me also.
Uh-oh.
No.
Do you want me to
It
try?
worked
Maybe I
before.
could
Now
do it.
this could be your magic moment, but it's really leaking, and it didn't on my birthday.
I swear it worked before.
It worked before, but is all the water out of it?
Oh, that's why the water all
I don't
leaked
know.
out.
I'm sorry for the lack of bird song in my thing. But anyway, the point
How is
is,
it leaking though? It's one continuous. This was 3D printed, so it's one continuous.
I don't know. We got to talk to him about that quality control.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great though. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was sweet. It was sweet. And then everybody was making a lot of noise with it. So
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a great present, Colin.
I'm gonna put it down though. So
Well, it already leaked. It's got nowhere else to go.
no, it still has more. There's like more water coming out. Sorry.
Okay. So for mine, I started to write one sonnet on a project I'm working on, and then I was interrupted so much by the noise of the bustling house.
Yeah, that looked like it was me.
No, it wasn't actually. It was the kids.
I was trying.
And I know it was doing great, but that's fine. But then I'm like, well, why not write about that?
Yeah, well,
So
me too.
I wrote a second sonnet. I wrote a second one that I actually finished, and this is the one that there's not. But it's nice when you have one like. I want to try to do that. Have one incomplete thing. Some guest said that once, where you have like one incomplete thing, and then you always feel like.
But that's how I feel about writing Haiku, because I'm still like I finished the poem, and then I still am like perfecting the
It's
haiku
true,
for a while. That's
but
what
I always
love
have something
about
to come back to.
tinkering.
I don't remember whose advice that was, but I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's nice to have that.
Okay.
And here is the sonnet. In the shower. Sound pools in the center of a swirling house, tumbling off the textured walls and down the runnered stairs, the random hidden routes through ceiling vents off molding crown, the laundry chutes and sprawling water pipes. He's writing on his writing couch, so keep your voices low, they say, and voices low enough to hear the youngest. Zebra stripes, she shouts. Rhinoceros! Then footfalls leap and charge across the second floor's plateau, that span from open sound to infrasound so brief it echoes more than shouts. But when through humming walls you sing, a few soft notes can cut through anything.
Aww.
There you go. That's my In the Shower sonnet.
Oh, that's sweet.
And those were literally at the moments. That's what they said at the moments I was at those lines.
I'm not surprised for Rhinoceros, Charlotte's very
Except
into
I
right
put
now.
zebra stripes. She only said zebra, but I had to rhyme with pipes.
That's
So,
fair. She would allow it.
Yeah, but it was convenient though that she picked the striped animal.
That was. That's nice.
Anyway, that was mine for this week. And let's see what everybody else has. We've got a lot of people on the line, so that's good. And it's good that they're short poems too.
Yeah.
Let's start first with Rick Pongratz.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Rick.
Hey, Rick, great to see you.
Good to see you too. I love the little bird. I have one sitting right over there, so I was glad it made an appearance on the show.
Aw.
Yeah. Should I jump right in?
Yeah, go ahead. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Grandpa Bernard's Guide to Following Instructions. Farmer's tan, red face with a bald white head. You rose from beneath the repaired motor. A few unused pieces, nuts and washers, glinted in the gravel at your feet. You poured gasoline on your hands to wash away the grime. Nothing cleans like gas, you sang, in tune with the engine running next to you. You lit a Salem and breathed in deep. The gas soaked the dirt but didn't ignite. You were a god to me, defying the laws of internal combustion, impervious to flame. Years later, at 90, you'd lost a leg and half a lip, but still had a strong heart. The best mechanics never need all the parts.
Yeah, wonderful
That's a
last
nice
line.
line.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it
nice.
definitely is. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Rick.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was Rick Pongratz with Grandpa Bernard's Guide to Following Instructions. I like the title too. Next, let's go to Carla Schwartz.
Hi.
Hey, Carla, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I have a very short sonnet,
That's
even.
even short for a sonnet. That's
Wow,
impressive.
yeah,
Yes.
pulling that one off. I like it.
And I'm looking forward to reading it. Here it goes. How we hug and hum together, your A, my A minor, until we run out of breath. Inhale and exhale the next note, our song resonating with the evening bird song, your arms enfolded around me, bridging the score, seared by an argument we can't remember, flared, now fizzled.
Yeah, I love the precision of that. It's really great use of the short lines.
Yeah, the flared and fizzled. Now fizzled is so nice to put in your mouth and say.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
sharing that, Carla. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Carla Schwartz with How. And next, let's go to Nivedita Karthik.
Hello.
Hey, Nivi, great to see you.
Hi. How you guys doing?
I'm good. Yeah. So what do you have for us?
It's also a reference to a bird, surprisingly.
Mhm.
A nightingale, but I haven't actually referenced a bird or anything of that sort, but it's based on a nightingale singing in the evening.
Yeah. Well, let's hear it.
The song. Upon a quiet dusk, a voice takes flight, a gentle melody that stirs the air. It weaves through sleeping leaves and dew-laced grass, a song that holds the soul in a tender grip. The singer's breath is soft as starry night, each note a ripple on the endless sky. It rises and falls an unspoken prayer, a language born from depths unseen, unheard. In every note, a story is softly told of longing, hope, and silent reverie. The voice is a bridge between the heart and sky, a fleeting echo of eternity. And as the song dissolves into the breeze, it leaves a trace of grace in quiet hearts.
Love that trace of grace. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Nivi.
Thanks, Nivi.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's Nivedita Karthik with the song. Next, let's go to Brian O'Sullivan.
Hello.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, great to see you.
Hey. Yeah, great. Good to be here. So, I have a sonnet. It's called Long Island Oddity.
Nice. I like that title too. Let's hear it.
One January midnight when I was moonlighting, one January midnight when I was a moonlighting undergrad, I headed home from a phone bank in Floral Park, New York, where, languidly fighting boredom with coffee, I've been asking respondents to rank their sample beers. Too bitter? Not bitter enough? Just right? The sky was starry for Queens. The air was brisk and it was lightly snowing. No rush, I thought, unwinding. I'll take the long way there. I turned the dial and the radio played Major Tom, and the stars looked very different today. It hit me like a bomb. I sang along, and my Ford Zephyr swayed as I fell into the flow. A few hours later, the Challenger would explode.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Volta.
Yeah, it definitely
Wow.
is. Yeah, yeah, great. I
It's
love
very
the
nice.
sound. Great use of the form, Brian. That's
Thanks.
one of your best ones, I'd say.
Yeah. it
Oh,
really
thanks.
is.
Yeah.
That's really
Sure.
nice. Hmm.
Yeah, Long Island Oddity by Brian
That's me,
O'Sullivan.
Long Island Oddity.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Gosh, it makes me want to listen to that song so bad right now. That's
Oh,
one of
I
those
know.
that just gets stuck in my head and it stays there forever.
Yeah.
I love
Well, maybe
it,
we should
though.
crank it up. Get the little copyright. It's
Ready.
fine.
I'm
we
ready.
can have
It's
ads.
worth the fine.
It's not a fine. They just put ads in our videos and
Oh.
then give whoever owns the song the money. But that's worth
We
$2.
should give it to Brian instead. He's the one
Yeah.
making us think of the song.
Exactly. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Let's go to Hamet Malik.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Hamet, great to see you.
You too. Thank you. I was a little bit rushed this week and I didn't get the rhythm I wanted, but anyway, this is what I've got.
Okay.
Hope. I open the message from my sister. It's a movie of her daughter dancing and singing. Her little legs move faster than the tune. blasting from the wall-sized screen. She's right there inside the neon parkland with a rabbit taller than her dad. Huge yellow flowers and a teapot rock band hook her hips. A baby pendulum's cute first swings. She chirps into her spoon, filling it with her lolly voice, one beat behind. The lounge room is gone. The sun is spilling on her shoulders, sending warmth deep inside her song. I can't stop staring at her face. Her eyes are the whole world loving itself.
No, that's beautiful, and I love the use of slant rhyme there.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
that's
nice.
so distant but still there. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Emmett.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Hammett Malik with Hope, and we are cruising through these sonnets.
I know people are taking it seriously. It's
Yeah.
nice.
All right, let's go to Dick Westheimer next.
Hey, all.
Hey, Dick, great to see you.
Good to hear a poet this evening reading poems after my own heart.
It definitely is. When I saw the book, I no lie, Elementary Particles, I thought Dick is going to love this guest. So,
And I had written a poem on the same Gravity article, so of course different, right? You know, the metaphors that emerge are different. Well, this is quickly drafted as well as a sonnet can be in a Starbucks next to a supercharging station on my way back from the aforementioned wedding in the poem.
Is that the title of the poem? Because it sounds like a poem title.
It does.
Well, I guess it could be. I guess I could change the. So I'll go. Sonnet for the wedding singer in a time of despair, for Daniel and Miranda and all their crooked and queer and straight and complicated friends and family. For each of my kids, I've tried to write a song to toast each marriage or their wedding to the land. This mostly has come easily as I've caught the tune as if a leaf lit in my hand. The words I've cobbled as I would a shoe from leather scraps tossed in a remnant bin. I've tried to stitch some sturdy, useful truths, like humility when you receive such gifts as good fortune when your dreams come true. Nothing flows, no tune, no prudent words. Oh, these are hard times, my muse says, no use for hopeful songs. Now's all swine, no pearls. My daughter tells me that I have no choice. At the wedding, all join in one exultant voice.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. It's a great actually to read at the wedding too. Would be great.
I think you would be great at giving like a very heartfelt speech at weddings too. I could see you could have that as like a gig. People pay you to come, even if you didn't know them.
The heartfelt speech. Well, that was my beautiful bride's role this time for my son, and I got to sing the song that I write at the last minute because my daughter told me I had to.
Oh, that's great, Dick. Yeah. Well, congratulations to them too, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah. It was Dick Westheimer with Sonnet for the Wedding Singer in a Time of Despair. Next up, let's go to Amanda Harris.
Okay, so I had a lot of fun with this.
Great.
Yeah.
I decided to make the song happen in kind of unconventional way. Okay.
Nice.
Not so typical sonnet. Lions are the roar in my blood, and they crawl like insects up my waiting spine. I am, because of my maybe autism, usually insensitive to the singing of moon in grass. But lions, for reasons I do not know, wrestle me into a continent that grinds its teeth and then uses them to lick you. Whitman, when finding this state, said I sing the body electric. I would not go that far, but there is something I love about nature, bitter and complete.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I love the way that poem says Whitman, when fighting the state, said that, and then it just really makes you anticipate what you're going to say.
Yeah.
It's really a great
exciting.
setup. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it feels like a contemporary, totally in conversation with that poem too, which is really neat. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was Amanda Harris with Not So Typical Sonnet.
Giving her masterclass on how to read well on the prompt lines as usual.
Yeah, definitely. Always does. Let's go next to Jared Campbell.
Hello.
Hey, Jared, a frequent sonneteer, so this was right up your alley.
Yeah, so I did a 16-line sonnet, kind of like George Meredith's modern love sonnets. Microtonality. We walked together through an anecdote along the creek. I watched, shining through the screen of limbs, diamonds of evening blue. Unseen robins tuned their dual throats to song that I can name but cannot quote, and possibly can't hear, or can't hear truly, with a robin's microtonal view. What fine structures, what notes within the notes escaped my notice like the shifting clouds of emotion that arise and pass away on my wife's face when she relates a story. I see familiar shapes within the crowd of her expressions, but suspect that they have unseen edges casting informatory shadows on an unwalked way through undiscovered territory.
Yeah, that's great. Great use of all those, difficult, interesting rhymes.
Yeah, that first line, I mean, is really great. I love the concept of walking through an anecdote along the creek. That's great, and it works so well. I mean, because it really has to start the poem that way, or else anywhere else it's going to feel like, why are we so removed emotionally from it? So I like that. That's definitely one of those lines that's going to come back to me like, I'm in an anecdote now. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much, Jared, for sharing
Thanks,
that.
Jared.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I knew Jared had something interesting. There's Jared Campbell, and I accidentally, it logged me out, and then what was the title? Let me go. Where is it? Microtonality was the title by Jared Campbell. Thanks for sharing that, Jared. And next we will go to Christiana Doucette.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Christiana, great to see you.
I ran and grabbed my little ones that my
we're like a whole tribe, and I didn't even know this. Is very exciting.
Yeah, I didn't know they existed either. That's really cool.
My kids got them at our Ren fair, and they love playing them. So
I just realized, I just thought it was a marijuana pipe. I've probably seen them many
marijuana
times.
pipes over here.
I just thought
I love the way you referred to that. It makes you sound like you're 200 years old. The marijuana.
Yeah, you know what?
It's like saying
the
the
truth is,
Facebook.
too, I was like, oh no, what do people call those things? I had that thought. But anyway.
Oh, yours is really cute, though.
It
Thanks for
definitely
bringing it on
is.
screen.
there's actually two of them. There's like a little parrot, and then like a little.
Oh, those are cute. Yeah.
And there are
That's what those
our Twitter wars at our house. The poem that I have tonight, it's a sonnet, and it's about my dad singing in my wedding. But yeah, I'll read it for you.
Great.
My father sings. His tenor rings around the room, and tears slip down his chin. A slow procession marches, a prelude ushering us through the years to where a vine-trimmed wedding trellis arches. I squeeze his hand as at the aisle's end my father lifts the veil to kiss my cheek. His face tells me he cannot comprehend we're here, his tongue's too full of time to speak. My uncle presses pause. Our figures freeze. I shift to wrap my father in a hug. It meant the world to me, you sang. I squeeze his arm. He gives a hopeless sideways shrug. I'm glad I did, he says, hands twisting knots. His eyes go wide. But somehow, I forgot.
Oh, well, that's such a touching poem, and it's a sweet memory, too.
Yeah, and the rhymes are just so beautiful throughout that, too. It's really nice.
It's based on this summer. My dad had an aneurysm burst in 2023. So in July, we went up to see my grandmother and everything, and my uncle had found my wedding video, and so he played the section where my dad sang in the prelude and then walked me down the aisle, and I was talking with my dad was just crying through the whole thing, and then like was telling me like I don't have any of these memories. I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, well, that's heartbreaking. It really is.
Yeah.
Sweet, too. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Christiana.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was Christiana Doucette with My Father Sings. Yeah, these are great tonight.
Yeah, they are.
Let's go next to Nancy Tennell.
I feel, Tim, I hope you got the second one I sent, the corrected version.
Okay,
that one's singing more for Nancy tonight.
Correction, we've got it.
Yeah.
The Bayou Nights, I like that.
And I actually wish Jeff could read this in his southern accent, but I won't even attempt that. This is, we're going to go to Louisiana.
Nice.
Bayou Nights. As Bo picks up his squeeze box for some tunes, the swamp hogs roll their Harleys into the lot of the Bayou Boogie dance hall and saloon where the beer is cold and the music's always hot. The mudbugs are playing and ready to take the stage on the outdoor dance floor that stands above the creek. Their music compels everyone there to engage, including non-human observers beneath their feet. As people stomp their boots and circle around, the grick of crickets adds a percussive twist. The bullfrogs rumble bass notes down on the ground, while the gators stir the water with a big tail swish. Even beasts find peace and happiness when they go to hear a Cajun band sing Diggy Diggy Low.
Wow.
Oh, that's great. I love that last couplet. That's so cool.
I want the whole movie version of this poem.
The what version?
The whole movie version of this poem. Because I could see it so much, and I want the story. I could see a whole biopic happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is a book called The Cajun Night Before Christmas.
Oh, wow. We need that.
It's so funny.
Oh,
I recommend it.
That sounds wonderful.
It does, yeah. Well, that's great. Thanks so much for sharing that, Nancy.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, it's Nancy Tanal with Bayou Nights. Yeah, these are great, and just like show how much like poetic chops everybody has.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, I mean, think about 6 years ago. By the way, it's like the 6-year anniversary that we've been over 6 years now for the Rattlecast.
Wonderful, great.
And back
job.
then,
It's
you
so
know,
impressive.
if you'd have a sonnet, you'd get maybe half of them are sonnets, maybe, you know, and now we got
What I
everybody's
love
rolling.
too about this is everyone's voice that we hear week to week, usually in free verse, like in the form of a sonnet. You can really everyone's style is so pronounced that reads regularly on the prompt nights now too. It makes it more exciting.
Yeah, it definitely does. Speaking of which, let's go next to Nate Jacob.
Hey guys.
Hey Nate.
Hey Nate, great to see you.
New background.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm
Like
on my
some
bed.
sound dampening going on. Yeah.
Hey, I went in a similar direction to what you did, Katie. I wrote a Haibun-like sonnet.
Nice.
It's just a sonnet with a haiku at the end.
Interesting.
Is it okay? So I want to point out that mine was 14 lines total, but yours, sir, looks like it's more 17 lines. Is that true?
Oh,
Well,
interesting. So what is the official? Yeah.
The official, you were barred from entering, sir.
Well, what is the official length of the high bonnet?
Well, I made mine. I thought it was funnier if it was, 14 total still. But I mean, I've written some that are like Nate's that are, the American sonnet and then the haiku after. So I'm obviously just joking. But I'm glad I'm not the only one that did a haibun. So
yeah,
it's a Japanese sonnet.
Okay.
Sure.
Thanks, Nate. Well, let's hear this.
All right. Titled Hitting the High Notes. In waking dream, I scale the highest Alps until I've left my breath below my feet, and trees and birds watch for me far beneath a web of ropes that wait down past the clouds. I stir from sunlit summit with a jolt, in time to hear her airy voice sing out that I should fast descend that granite height and bring the dog, but watch, don't let him bolt the open door, where she will meet me, mad that yet again I've missed the garbage truck. A line here was deleted, rhymed with truck. I'll give chase with trash bags in each hand, across the street, then down and past the rest of neighbor men down from their own Everests. Tashi Delek, don't forget the recycling. Yodel, odel, e.
That was great. I love that move.
It's really funny. Well, I can't say anything, but I almost did a prompt for next week where this poem would have qualified in a super weird way for it. But I guess I can't say because I think I'm probably going to use that prompt again.
All right.
But you'll know when you see it, Nate Jacob.
I'll recycle this sucker, no problem.
All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Nate. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, Nate Jacob with Hitting the High Notes. Next, let's go to Ian McGrath Santowski.
Hello.
Hey, Ian. Yeah, great to see you.
Yeah, you guys as well. This was a very painful prompt for me because it forced me to admit my feelings that I have for someone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When I first read the prompt that it has to include someone singing, here in the town that I'm living in, they've been having weekly live concerts every Wednesday up in a park on a hill, and I've been attending that. And I danced a few times with this girl, and man, I got a crush on her, and now I have to
Aw.
figure out the circumstances of everything. So the sonnet really allowed me to explore that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I
I'm
love that.
excited to hear it.
Yeah.
It's called A Sonnet About Casey. Our love demands live music, demands we dance barefoot on the hollow drums of earth, demands I wash my blackened foot in the sink afterwards, before lying awake all night in bed alone. Our love demands we meet only on Wednesdays, in the park on the hill below the mountains. Our love demands we meet only this summer between 7 p.m. and when the sunset blinks. Our love needs these restrictions, a little while longer for me to realize we could waltz any day we want, anywhere. We could waltz well into the warmth of winter. But should I take her hand? In this song I wrote, should I take her hand towards untouchable snow?
Oh, yeah, that's a great last line. So sweet.
I have to know if you're going to share it with her. I'm sorry if that's nosy.
I was intending to last Wednesday, but she didn't show up. So we'll see what happens this Wednesday.
Oh, that's great. Well, good luck, and you'll have to report back.
Yeah, I think it's going to go well, especially if she seems like she would like it if you took her hand gently at the end of the poem as a suggestion. I'm sorry, I'm too into matchmaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm blushing now. I'm blushing now.
Go along with
Me
it.
too. Thanks, Ian.
All right. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Ian.
Thank you.
Ian McGrath-Santowski with a sonnet about Casey. Oh, that was sweet. Yeah, I like that. All right. Let's go next to Jeremy McKay.
Hi.
Hey, Jeremy. Great to see you.
Okay, you can hear me good.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll just get into it because
okay.
Frankie sings in the talent show. I am 500 miles away from home. My 8-year-old brother sang loud, unafraid. They took the mic away, but he wasn't done. He declared he would not leave the stage. They gave it back, and just like in practice, when someone would break his singing run, he started again. Off key, but fearless. Each note a crooked climb, sung for fun. The years rolled on through Navy loss and fight, and sickness came to claim its weary death. Yet somehow he had learned to sing just right, a voice that made our mother's eyes turn wet. I hear him now, both boy and man combined. One fearless heart, one song that's lost in time.
Yeah, that's really sweet. And I love that memory too. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Great to see you again, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much. That was Jeremy McKay with Frankie Sings in the Talent Show. Next, let's go to Chelsea McClellan.
Hello.
Hey, Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea. Great to see you.
You too. This poem is called This World as It's Passing Away. With an epigraph. Do not love the world or the things in the world. The world is passing away, along with its desires. Last night, at midnight, I was whisper singing, soothing the shadows with the raven's song they've grown to love. Entranced, they danced along. Moonlight snuck through the window, tried unstringing the guitars, The bookshelves leaned out farther, tried to save it, but snapped its neck instead. I heard the crunch, the sting, the bronze unthread its music from the room. My toddler's feather flickered in its wicker basket, threw a tiny barb at me. I rubbed my ear, and the shush became a fountain in a pond. The feather's barb, a patch of feverfew. I wasn't lying on my couch, but here, this shaded earth, of which I'm growing fond.
Yeah, I love some of those rhymes and enjambments there in that one. Thanks for sharing that, Chelsea. Great use of the form.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep. Yeah, very cool. That was Chelsea McClellan with This World as It's Passing Away. Next, let's go to... who's next? Tina Dennetclaw.
Hello.
Hey, Tina.
Hey, Tina. Great to see you.
Great to see you guys too. Somehow when I say it always sounds insincere, so I have to figure out my Zoom voice for
No,
yes,
we believe
I'm
We trust you, Tina.
We do, yeah.
Okay. It's like, yeah. So I don't know how to oh my gosh, I wrote in my poem. I don't know how to write sonnets. And so I have one, and it's an awkward sonnet, but I think it obeys the rules.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's great to, even if you don't usually, it's even better reason to do it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a learning experience. And one of these days, you won't be able to, it'll flow like everybody else's. It's also the opposite of what Jeremy observed for his brother. So the name of it is Choices Interrupted. Okay, my brother said, let's sing a song next week. He wanted me to join him and a friend, arriving at a stage unknown to me. You know the song, no exit door to run. My knees were steady to the end of song, then raced my heart, my knees gave way to fright. He did not ask, he tricked me. Come along. My brother, pleased, we won some sort of prize. The man who would become my lifelong love, not willing, risk, kept safe his heart from break. Let me invite myself, just friends, for months, and did not say that we were on a date. I would not choose to sing for any judge, but I would date my husband just as much.
I love that ending, and too, the slant rhyme there too. Another nice one. The judge and the much, really nice. Yeah, thanks so much.
You.
Thanks, Tina.
Tina, yeah.
Yeah, my toddler sonnet.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's Tina Dennetclaw with Choices Interrupted. Next, let's go to Laura Berg.
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Laura. Great to see you.
Enjoying all these sonnets.
Yeah, me too. I do love formal poetry, so it's great to see everybody knocking them out.
All right, here we go. Let's see. Angels as seen in Coyoacan. Colibri, Huitzili, the women vendors sing their fluid ancient words for hummingbirds, new to me. All day we've been walking, bodies coated in dust and sweat, and wonder how these makers encircled by trinkets set on reeds can keep their cotton shifts so white, floral, clean, or how we might learn to chant our wares in such a way that passers-by would stop and aspire, bargain, purchase, and only then depart, with emerald colibris, glossy-eyed, and wrapped for travel, tourist art, yet as true souvenirs must be, making us long to stay forever with the brush of a wing.
Yeah, beautiful ending in that one.
Yeah, really pretty.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Laura. Yeah, it's Laura Berg with Angels as seen on Coyoacan.
Yes, we've been talking about lately, I shared with the kids how horrible I am at pronouncing anything unusual. And so
Well, I am
now
too.
I see it. I know, but you do it, and it's impressive.
Except for when they're French, because I can't even guess.
Well,
That's
I'm
the
better
problem.
when it comes to that, and that's like it.
Okay. Let's go next to Mike Bales.
I remember when I first wrote a sonnet. It was a workshop. I went, can I do this? But I guess I did.
Nice.
I like the little bit of heartbreak. I don't know if I've got a lot at the end of this. Is it an ekphrastic sonnet if you write a sonnet about karaoke?
What's the word? Euphrastic from euphonia? Isn't that a word?
I don't know. I've never.
Oh, we used to have a euphrastic challenge. So people have asked for it. So
that's really interesting.
This called Under the Lights. The performer stands in the front and scans the audience before him. When the music starts to play, he grabs a mic and comes alive. Words scroll across a small screen, and he makes a song his own. He embraces verses by the Beatles, the melody as they flow through time. He scans the audience and finds a young woman moving her lips. He sings as if singing to her alone, as she embraces his every note. A feeling of love fills the room the moments he savors on stage.
Yeah, very nice. Paints that picture.
Yeah,
it definitely does. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, Mike Bales with Under the Lights. Next, let's go to Mark Grenier.
Hello.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark. Great to see you. It's been a bit.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the background usually. Anyway, my sonnet is Sonnet on Sonneteer.
Nice. I like that.
For all those strident love poems we scriven, these words scrawl out in thoughtless, eager pain, to woo some gorgeous love towards highest heaven. That's really just the rut some hapless swain goes on and on and on about. Short blocks of words laid down to sway the sweet and sweatless beauty who knocked his socks off, loosed his muddy boots and smelly feet in limping rhythms, Shakespearean rhymes, that stumbled across yon rocky road to sway the girl in bloody, bloody days. Bloody, bruising days are time, imposed upon young poets who try to play and out loud their rural toots and pastoral tunes that grand traditions sing through silly loons.
That was good. I really love the cynicism and the playfulness of that. That was really fun, Mark. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the great word choice too. The scriven rhyming with heaven there.
Fun. I like it a
Yeah,
lot.
the swain. Yeah, that was very fun. Thanks for sharing that, Mark. Yeah, Mark Grenier with Sonnet on Sonnets and Sonneteers. Okay, next let's go to Mary Lisa D. Diminishes.
Hi.
Hey, Mary Lisa, great to see you.
Yeah, good to see everybody else too tonight. All right, let me pull this up. Okay. So yeah, this was a lot of fun because it started out, man. It took me 3 hours from start to finish to get this thing from 18 lines down, and I still couldn't rhyme it. So we're just gonna have to call it an American sonnet.
All right, yeah, that sounds good.
Like I said, I do a better job when I'm singing to my cats at rhyming than I do when I'm like actually trying to rhyme. Okay. Northbound hope. They never fail to stop me, squawking flocks of geese overhead. They sing to one another, maybe for one another, all together, their honky cries layered like music to create one song between them. And as they fling their wings, push air behind them, I hope it doesn't become too tiring, like swimming against an aggressive ocean is tiring. And I hope they have the strength to arrive to where they need to be, on time and without disruption. Yes, I know, birds aren't human. Still, I can't help but wonder if maybe they burst out in song above, to drown out the sound of traffic beneath them, Maybe they need to quiet the sound of me. Or like me, they sing because even a hum of hope makes a better map than no hope, a better song than silence. Singing, even flying against dark, blustery wind, all of us together until journey's end.
Oh, well, I love the hum of hope line.
Yeah,
That's a great way to phrase that. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mary Lisa.
Yeah, I love those birds. Okay. Good night.
Thanks.
Great readings by everybody. Such a great night. Thank you for
Yeah, it
sharing,
definitely was.
everybody. Good night.
Thanks for being
and
here,
letting
Mary
me share.
Lisa.
Thank you. Okay, good night.
Okay, good night. Yeah, it was Mary Lisa Dietemishus with Northbound Hope. And next up is a sonneteer, Zachary Honeycutt.
Hey, Tim. Hey, Katie.
Hey, Zach. Great to see you.
Yes, I'm the sonneteer. Popped in late tonight, but I'm here.
Well, you made it.
Made it. Alrighty, I'll get right to it. Early in the morning, all the sounds of life's rush at morning's break stall for that hour when the sun arrives. Song of bird fill the sky as I lie awake, happy as they to be up and alive. Outside my window, a dog is barking, while the woodpecker drills holes in the tree, and the sounds of cars gone off embarking with life's daily rhythm and mystery. Oh, how I wish the cardinals would stay on the fence like the sunlit shadows of trees. Just as God divided the night from the day, they are both shadows and fence, two entities. Yet how abruptly the night must stave, and then the abject silence of the grave.
Well, great rhythm as I expected.
Yeah, that is an excellent volta. I didn't see it coming, and it really made the whole poem hit.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
I'd like
thanks
to
for
put
sharing
in
that.
the KO punch there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Nice sonnet. See you guys next week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that Cardinals on the fence is a great way to do it.
really
Yeah.
nice. One thing I did when I was trying to figure out I was trying to work on my own haiku, and I went to some website where they have different bird songs and listened to different birds and their actual songs.
Oh, really?
One day I want to actually be able to be oh, I hear a distant red tanager or whatever. That would be such a cool superpower.
Well, I think one of our many lives we're
Yeah.
gonna be birders, and we're gonna go.
Yeah.
You take your camera.
Yeah.
We'll get our little book.
Yeah,
we'll
well,
check
we
'em off
have the
list.
heron nest in the backyard. We keep checking on up
We
in the
do.
pine
That
tree,
is really
so that's
cool.
something cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but serious birders, I'm gonna get real into that.
Yeah, like the red-throated tanager.
I'm gonna have a
Yeah.
vest.
Oh wow, with patches.
Yes.
Wow. All right, well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was Zachary Honeycutt with I did it again. I left before I said the title. Early in the morning. Thanks for sharing that, Zach. Let's see. Now, someone is on the Zoom called iPad 2, which may be an accident, but it might be AI coming in
We
with
see
their
you
thoughts
either
on
way,
poetry.
friends.
Let's see if
Yeah.
anything happens when I ask.
It's an
iPad.
accident.
Okay.
Oh, it's an accident.
That is
Okay.
Mark Grenier. All right, thanks,
You
Mark.
called him.
No problem. All right. So that's going to wrap up the Zoom. Let's see what Ted Bernal Guevara had for us. He's got a sonnet.
That would be good. That would be
That
bad
would
if
be-
it was not a sonnet.
And it says, here we go. Sonnet to one who thinks disability improves with age. Interesting. Lame excuse. Up to now, she's naive about herself, whether it be her hand, her arm, or mind. They can't age the same and can't all be on one shelf. It's easy to forget and contest what is unkind. For instance, cognitive forecast of her is unaligned. Chord, voice, and that fine movement. So, why is she nervous at dinner before the wine? Yes, she craves ordinary life, its sounds, its musical intent. But in sync, she's not with things that are meant. She thinks herself a stranger, or the one who sees and bows from the flinches she makes a humbling vent. Yet in daily peace, beauty comes and goes. She owns it with experience and sigh, but she knows the world would accept, then deny. Really touching. It's one of my favorite of yours lately.
Yeah,
Ted.
it really is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really touching. Thanks for sharing that. That was Ted Bernal Guevara with A Lame Excuse. And let's see. I think that's going to wrap up. That's all the people I've seen today. It's going to wrap up the prompt lines for tonight. Let's go take a quick look at the haiku of the week.
Can we say really quick that I think that was an absolutely incredible prompt lines?
That really
everyone
was.
read really good poems, and I found it really inspiring. Everyone went in different directions, and that was very energizing for me.
Oh, it definitely was. Yeah, it makes, it's a long show,
Yeah.
but to get and want to go write poems after.
Yeah,
is like
it's
the
really
goal and
exciting.
helps.
That is
Yeah.
the goal. So great job, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, wonderful poems all around. All right, well, let's go to the haiku for this week. This haiku written in the parking lot last night, in my head anyway.
Nice.
Yeah. And it is the following. Summer's End, hazy in the parking lot of Five Below. There you go. Well, I was in the car with Charlotte because she was over it.
Yeah, I was
most
over it.
Most of us
but
were
I didn't
over
get
it,
to go
yeah.
to the car, but the kids spent 10 minutes picking out
One
various
last.
$5 stuffed animals.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, that is the haiku for this week. And that is the show for this week. Now, next week's prompt on the Rattlecast is going to be what, Katie Dozier?
We are going to... I forgot, even though I wrote it earlier. We're going to write an ekphrastic poem based on a well-known painting that you dislike. So to clarify, too, you should like your own poem. You should not like the painting that you do in ekphrastic, because I thought it would be interesting, right? Ekphrastic usually is, in exaltation of like, oh, I really love this piece of art. I want to write about it. But what if we actually do that about a piece of art we don't like? And then also I was thinking about it in terms of our conversation with Ruth Reichel and how we want more art criticism. So maybe this will allow us to, you don't have to like every single famous piece of art.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
I think it'll be interesting to learn what art people don't really like also.
I as I was placing this in, I was reading it, and the two earlier guests, Sneha and Christy, can attest. I was like, ooh, at the end, because I didn't see that dislike coming.
I know, we don't
that
often go
fun.
negative on there. I think it'll be fun, but it was inspired because we were at the art museum, of course, with the kids. Great art museum in Houston, but some we didn't like as much, and that's okay.
Always plenty to choose from. Yeah. All right, well, that's a cool prompt. Thanks for sharing that, Katie. And now next week's guest in the Rattlecast is going to be Gregory Orr. Gregory Orr is a wonderful poet. He's got these several books of the beloved. The book of the body that is the beloved that is the world is one of them. Also one of the most incredible backstories of his life and how he became a poet. One of those things that just make you feel like that the universe is not, I don't know, it's an associative narrative universe and not just physics. That is Gregory Orr's life, and a wonderful poet and teacher. He was interviewed in Rattle number 23, and then also with his wife, Tricia Orr, had some wonderful poems as paintings in our visual poems issue, too. But it's going to be really fun talking to him. He's got a new book coming out next spring he'll be reading from. That's Gregory Orr, Rattlecast 305. Then the prompt, write an ekphrastic poem based on a well-known painting that you dislike. And that'll be the regular time, Sunday, August 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Hope you have a great week in the meantime, and we'll talk to you later. Good night.
Good night.